or anything else to give us an overview of the economy or the status of the economy of Region 10 and also maybe on some part of the country, we would like to welcome Arding Myla Faye Aurora Carino for the presentation in behalf of the DepDev 10.
Maayong hapon sa tanan. I would like to acknowledge our partners who are here. We'd like to thank the Philippine Information Agency for organizing this kapihan. The PIA is the chair of the Communications and Advocacy Committee of the Regional Development Council. I'd really like to thank our partners who are here. Red Pakamalan, RD Wayan, RD Joff, Suyaw, our 4th Infantry Division Commander Major General Mitch Anayron, and the representative of RD of DTIC Attorney Fel. So nganong naata dinhi during the last meeting of the RDC last March 18, isa sa gihisgutan mao ang atong socio-economic situation amid this oil crisis. And also during that meeting, the DA and the DTI presented the efforts that they're doing to really mitigate the impact of this crisis. So once again, maayong hapon ka natong tanan. Ang akong tahas karong hapuna is really to discuss a critical issue affecting not just the global stage, but our very own local economy, particularly ang economic impact sa ongoing US-Iran-Israel conflict. As the Regional Director of the Department of Economy, Planning and Development of Regional Office 10, I will walk you through how these geopolitical tensions translate to the prices we pay at the pump and the overall health of our economy. To understand where we are at the moment, we have to look at oil. Since the conflict escalated late February 2026, the price of Dubai crude, which is our primary benchmark, has skyrocketed. Medyo nisaka gyud siya. Ug taas ang iyang pagsaka. In less than a month, ang presyo aning Dubai crude has surged by as much as 123%, hitting nearly $159 per barrel by March 20. Right now, naa siya sa around $129. This volatility, kaning fluctuation sa presyo sa Dubai crude, is the root cause of the economic pressure we are feeling today. It's not yet a crisis, but pressure. Ang NEDA nga karong gitawag og DepDev, naglantaw sa duha ka scenarios, no? And kani nga scenario will be the basis of our analysis. So unsa ang scenario 1? Mauna ang orange nga line. Dubai crude oil is projected to reach around US $100 per barrel in March 2026. At the moment, it's already around 128 and will remain above US $80 until May. Ang ikaduha nga scenario, mao ang gray line, assumes a wider and more severe conflict. Oil price may rise to as much as US $140 per barrel and remain elevated until September. These estimates assume no further increase in profit margins or markups. Okay, so our central office came up with 2 scenarios as I've mentioned. So next slide, this one. Diesel prices are expected to increase significantly under both scenarios. Under scenario 1, ang diesel price may rise by around 24% in March 2026 relative to the baseline. Under scenario 2, diesel prices may increase by as much as 62%. This is particularly of concern to us because diesel is widely used in transportation, logistics, agriculture, and power generation. Gasoline prices are also projected to rise. Under scenario 1, ang presyo sa gasolina may increase by around 20% in March. Under scenario 2, prices may increase by more than 50%. This would directly affect household transportation costs and indirectly increase the prices of goods and services. The increase in fuel prices is expected to push inflation beyond the government's target range. So unsa man ang inflation, no, in layman's term? Kanang inflation mauna ang paglihok sa presyo sa palaliton. So when you say inflation, ang paglihok ana pagsaka. It's an upward movement of prices. Now, gi-expect man gyud nato na no nga na ay movement sa prices. Ang atong target unta nga kaya sa atong ekonomiya is between 2 to 4%. But with the crisis, we are anticipating na ang inflation or ang movement sa presyo will be beyond the target range. So under scenario 1, ang inflation may increase to between 4.5 to 4.8% in April 2026. So that is already beyond ang atong target range nga 2 to 4%. Under scenario 2, ang atong inflation or ang movement sa prices may rise to as high as 7.5%. The increase in inflation would result not only from the higher fuel prices, but also from higher transportation costs, imported goods, and food prices. Both food and non-food inflation are expected to rise. Kaya kung ang atong tanawon bitaw ang presyo, when we monitor ang presyo, ang atong gitanaw dili lang ang food prices, but also non-food prices. So non-food inflation is projected to increase more sharply because fuel directly affects transportation and utility costs. However, food inflation will also rise because of higher transport and production costs, and this will be passed on to our consumers. Even after the conflict eases, bisan pa lugar ug muhupat na no ang conflict sa Middle East, we still expect nga taas gihapon ang atong presyo, and it will remain until around early 2027. Okay, so naaman tay mga overseas Filipino workers. If a total deployment ban, no, so kung dili ta magpadala sa Middle East, naagyoy deployment ban, and then naay partial repatriation kay naan may nanguli RD, di ba? RD Joff? So if a total deployment ban and partial repatriation of overseas Filipino workers are imposed, more than 550,000 OFWs may be affected. Remittances could decline by more than 226 billion pesos, equivalent to around 63 to 65% of 2025 remittance levels. And kani siya nga figure is national. Lower remittances would reduce household spending and weaken local economic activity. Siyempre, kung muubos ang remittances sa atong OFWs, ang mga pamilya nga nagsalig aning remittances, mausab ang ilang spending pattern. It is possible mausab ang ilang mga pilion nga goods and services. It is also expected nga in terms of volume, basin mo kunhod pod ang ilang mga paliton. And when that happens, ang atong economic activity will also weaken. So the combined effects of higher inflation and lower remittances may slow economic growth. Akong klaruhon ha, may slow economic growth. Pero naagihapoy economic growth. Kay dili man ni siya pariha atong panahon sa COVID nga nagsirado gyud ang atong ekonomiya. Nagsira ang mga malls, nga nagsira no during the pandemic, dili man ing ana ang atong sitwasyon karon. Nagpadayon man ang atong mga economic activities. Nagpadayon man ang atong mga activities sa gobyerno. So ang amo lang makita is mo slow down ang economy pero magpadayon siya nga mo expand but at a slower rate. Ako lang ang klaruhon ha. Kaya para dili ta magpagawas og mga balita nga maka-cause of panic. The economy will continue to grow but at a slower rate. So under scenario 1, growth could decline by around 0.2 percentage point. Mo decline ang growth, but there is still growth. Under scenario 2, the reduction may reach 0.3 percentage point. The slowdown, unsay cause aning slowdown? The slowdown would largely be due to lower purchasing power sa atong mga households. So unsaon man nato ni, how can we mitigate the adverse impact? So one possible mitigation measure is the temporary suspension of the excise tax on fuel. Under scenario 1, a suspension from March to May 2026 would significantly reduce the increase in diesel prices. Under scenario 2, a longer suspension, perhaps from March to September, would also help lower the projected increase. This measure can provide relief to transport operators, farmers, and businesses. The suspension of the excise tax would also reduce the increase in gasoline prices. Katong ganiha, diesel to, no? Under scenario 1, gasoline prices may return to baseline levels. Under scenario 2, gasoline prices would remain high, but the increase would be much smaller than without intervention. This policy would help ease the burden on households. Suspending the excise tax on fuel can also help reduce inflation. Under scenario 1, inflation may decline from around 4.5 to 5.1%, so that it would be within 3.6 to 4.2%, so well within our target range of inflation. Under scenario 2, inflation would remain high, but the increase would still be moderated because of the mitigation measure. So this would help inflation grow closer to our target range. So while the suspension of the excise tax would help consumers, it would also reduce government revenues. Ngano man, kay katong excise tax, revenue man to siya. So kung ato siyang isuspend, no, makatabang siya sa konsumante apan mugamay pod ang revenue sa gobyerno. A 3-month suspension could result in a revenue loss of more than 43 billion pesos, while a 7-month suspension could reduce revenues by more than 105 billion pesos. Lower revenues may delay the implementation of infra and other priority projects. So mahimuan na kung i-reduce gyud ang atong revenue na alay madilatar in terms of implementation. So this slide presents the latest available indicators for the Philippines and Region 10. So in 2025, the Philippines recorded an employment rate of 95.8%, an unemployment rate of 4.2%, and an inflation rate of 1.7%. Dinhi sa ato sa Region 10, ang atong employment rate was around 95.64%, ang unemployment at 4.36%, ug mubo ra gyud kaayo ang atong inflation at 0.5%. Although Region 10 currently has low inflation, it remains vulnerable to external shocks because of its dependence on imported fuel and remittances. So these developments have resulted in immediate impacts in the region, particularly with the increase in pump prices of diesel and gasoline driven by global oil supply disruptions. This has led to higher transport and logistic costs across northern Mindanao. And so therefore, in response, ang atong mga government agencies and LGUs have adopted flexible work arrangements as an energy saving measures. This include work from home, hybrid setups, and adjusted schedules to reduce fuel and electricity consumption while ensuring continuity of critical services of the government. Lastly, naapoy disruptions in public transport including the transport strike last March 23, which affected the mobility of workers and students. Overall, this highlight the need to strengthen our energy resilience, our transport efficiency, and contingency planning in the region. So the recommended measures include the following, no? Temporary suspension of fuel excise taxes, assistance to transport sector, which will be discussed by LTFRB, and safety net programs for vulnerable groups, which will be discussed by our government agencies who are represented here. The government may also stagger the implementation of price increases, expand the use of lower-cost bioethanol, and promote energy conservation measures such as flexible work arrangements and a 4-day work week. In the long term, the country should reduce its dependence. Mo gid na tong ultimate aim. Reduce our dependence on imported oil by investing in renewable energy and exploring nuclear power projects. So President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has signed an executive order declaring a state of national energy emergency in light of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and the resulting imminent danger posed upon the availability and stability of the country's energy supply. To safeguard national interest by ensuring the stability of domestic energy supply, the uninterrupted delivery of essential services, the continuity of economic activity, and the welfare of all citizens, particularly the vulnerable sectors, and to mitigate the impact of the conflict in the Middle East, the executive order adopts the unified package for livelihoods, industry, food, and transport, which is called UPLIFT, as the government's coordinated whole-of-government response framework. So mauni ang atong response framework karon, gitawag siya UPLIFT. And then, nag-create po si President og UPLIFT Committee to oversee and coordinate the implementation of UPLIFT. So who heads this UPLIFT Committee? This is chaired by no less than the President of the Philippines. And who makes up the UPLIFT Committee? Ang Executive Secretary, the Secretaries of the Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Agriculture, Department of Finance, Department of Economy Planning and Development, and the Department of Budget and Management as members. Ang secretariat sa UPLIFT is our agency, the Department of Economy, Planning, and Development. Under the EO, the DOE is directed and authorized to take appropriate measures to safeguard the stability and adequacy of the country's energy supply. The Department of Transportation shall provide measures to mitigate the impact on the transport sector and the commuting public, including fuel subsidy allocations, commuter fare subsidies, expansion and improvement of public transport services through the Libreng Sakay, expansion of operating hours of the LRT and MRT, and review other appropriate measures. Ang DSWD shall expedite the release of AICs or assistance to individuals in crisis situations and provide appropriate social welfare and livelihood support. Ang DA is directed to monitor and ensure the adequate supply of agricultural inputs and food products and undertake necessary measures to maintain their availability at the lowest possible costs. Ang DMW is directed to mobilize mechanisms for the monitoring, rescue, evacuation, and repatriation of distressed OFWs. Ang DTI is directed to monitor, when warranted, implement remedies to address excessive or unreasonable price increases on basic necessities. Ang atong DOLE will provide assistance to distressed employees dinhi sa atong nasod, no? And for Region 10, it will be DOLE 10. And our LGUs are strongly urged to actively support the national government by undertaking measures within their respective jurisdictions that support, facilitate, and complement the national policies and agency directives. So that would be all, and may hapon ka naton tanan.
Thank you so much, RD Myla. And to